Ever since I started using off-camera flash, I've been trying many different lighting setups. After hundreds of photo shoots and the years of trial and error, I narrowed down to 3 different setups, and I'm gonna show you what they are today. So I promise you, first, you can get amazing results with any of these lighting setups. Second, they're all very lightweight and very portable. You can do your solo photo shoot or run and gun with any of these setups with 0 problem. Okay, let's get started. Okay, first, probably someone gonna ask, okay, Kyle, you already narrowed down to 3. Why can't you just do 1 so you make everyone's life easier? Okay, let me explain. Because we're basically talking about using off-camera flash on an outdoor location, then we gotta deal with one thing, which is the changing ambient. The ambient is always gonna be different. It could be the same location, but different time of day, the lighting could be quite different. When you're shooting, like say, in a downtown versus a beach, will be very different. A sunny day will be very different from a cloudy day. Sometimes you might shooting somewhere which the ambient light is very little. There's like dark ambient low light situation. So in order to find one lighting setup that cover them all, at the meantime, to maintain this like a lightweight portable solo photo shoot, it's kind of hard. This is why there's 3 options. So the first setup is just a beauty dish, but have to meet 3 properties. The first is silver. The second, don't use a diffuser. The third, no bigger than 24 inches in diameter. So why no front diffuser and why silver? Isn't that gonna give us harsh light? Okay, so if you think that way, I think you're still kind of thinking like a studio photographer, because in studio you control all the lights. Like if you want to see something, you have to actually give the light to there. But when we're shooting outdoor, it's a completely different. We always gotta work with Mother Nature. So our light is gonna be part of the ambient light. I explained that in the previous video before. So silver beauty dish will give you a harsh look if that's the only light source. But when we're shooting outdoor, that's not the case because we have this ambient. It could be the sun, it could be the sky, it could be the street light, it could be the sun shining on a wall or on the white sand and bounce back, or maybe like the bouncing back from the pavement, the concrete, the street. It could be, there's so many different lighting sources. So when you blend your light with the ambient light together, you will create a softer look, even if you're using this silver beauty dish and it's a very small, it's only 24 inches in diameter. So silver beauty dish have some like a really cool advantage. First, is silver interior, so the light is quite effective. So you don't need a lot of power, and like many times you can get away with like a less than 200 watt second light. It's quite powerful. You can use that little light with not much power to compete with sun, 0 problem. The second thing is the silver is really good at giving the texture. So actually, for people doing product photography, they know, like they use a smaller light to shoot, like for example, like a leather jacket or like a shoes or something, because it shows the texture. So what does it help for us as a portrait photographer? The skin texture, I think, is one very important factor that kind of get overlooked by many photographers, especially nowadays. Many people just tend to, use a Photoshop to soften the skin. Like we all see so many examples like the photo being over edited. So my next lighting setup is street box. This is a 1x3 street box. The street box compared with silver beauty dish has advantage because it covers a larger area either vertically or horizontally. And it can easily handle a full length shot without like putting your light too far away. And the light can be quite softer, depends on how you use it. Especially when you put the light horizontally, and then because the light coming a large area from the highlight all the way to the shadow, so that way you have this softer transition. This is very helpful during the low light situation when there's really not much ambient for you to blend in, so you have to rely more on your artificial light to create that ideal result, and street box is better for that. And the other thing is 1x3 street box is quite narrow. If you look like from the front, it's a narrow beam of light. 1x3 street box is quite small even you compare with the medium softbox like a 2x3 or like a 3 feet octa softbox. It doesn't catch much wind. It usually will be okay unless like a super windy condition. You'll be fine. You don't have to worry about the light gonna fall because you're working alone, right? Street softbox requires like at least like a 1 to 1.5 stop lower power compared with the 2x3 or like 3 feet octa softbox, which is the softbox that people normally use when they're shooting outdoor. You can leave your 500 watts or 600 watt big light at home. Shooting with these big lights, not just because the light is heavier, and then your light stand need to be bigger, need to be more stable. End up your setup could be quite heavier if you just move one stop higher with your light. But using the street box will help you to save a lot of weight just on that, because you just get down to a very small light modifier, very small light, and a much smaller light stand. The third lighting setup. So this one is you put a silver beauty dish at the top, and then you put a second light at the bottom. The second light you use is just like a small square softbox, it's around like 50 inches to 50 inches. You can use this lighting setup to do a butterfly lighting effect, but it can do a lot more than that, which I'll explain later. What's the difference between this lighting setup and just a one simple, like a 1x3 street box? They look quite similar. They look like roughly the same size. Can you even tell the difference? Let me explain. You can increase the distance between these two lights. You can raise the first light a lot higher, a lot lower. So you can turn this into between 1x3, 1x4, 1x5, even 1x6 street box, right? That's one thing. The second thing is you can adjust the angle of the top light up and down, left and right. You can do the same with the bottom light up and down, left and right. Because the bottom light was attached using a right angle bracket, there's a little bit distance there, so you can rotate the light from one side to the other. So make the lighting pattern almost unlimited. And of course, there's another huge thing is you can adjust the power level of each light differently. You will never be able to do this with just a simple street box. So this lighting setup is the one that I mentioned, that like the one lighting setup that cover all the lighting situation, because it can do what a silver beauty dish can do. You can just turn off the bottom light, right? And then you can do what a street box can do. And then it can do a lot more than any of the other two lighting setup can do. So if I want to choose one lighting setup that cover all the lighting conditions, this will be it. But if that's the case, why can't we just use this one? Well, it does have drawbacks. First, you have to carry two lights. You have to carry everything. You have to carry two softbox, two speed ring, two lights. And then of course, you need to figure out a way to attach the second light at the bottom of the light stand. In this case, I used the Kupo right angle pin, which is attached to the second light. And of course, the setup will be heavier. And this is actually pro and con. Yeah, it's heavier because you're using two lights. The whole setup is heavier. But you can still grab it with one hand. That's okay. The benefit of doing this is like the light is balanced. So it's not like all the weight is at the top of the light stand. It's actually half the weight at the top, half the weight at the bottom. Actually, the bottom light is working as a sandbag. It makes the whole setup more stable. Even though it's heavier, but it actually is the most stable setup of all three lighting setups. Okay, let me give you some suggestions in terms of what light setup to pick under what situation. If you travel, choose a silver beauty dish. It's the most compact setup. It takes the least amount of the space, and it's quite powerful. But you do need to switch your light position more often than compared with the other two, is because silver beauty dish is a very small light source, so your light need to be very, very accurate in terms of positioning. So if your subject turns just a little bit, you need to rotate your light to a different position. So that's the drawback. But for travel, I think always the size and the weight is number one. So I'll totally pick silver beauty dish if I travel. If you're shooting low light, I'll pick the 1x3, because you can do like a full lens shot, you can cover a larger area, and then you don't have to deal with the struggle to fill the shadows, just like when you're using silver beauty dish, because it's such smaller light, it doesn't have enough coverage when the ambient is too dark. So that's when you have issue with the shadows, too much shadows. Then street box will be a lot better for that. The street box does have a problem. It's like you can't pack it too small because the size is like 3 feet long. You can't fill it into your backpack. So like It's kind of annoying to carrying it around. That's for me, that's the drawback of the Softbox. If you don't mind to carry a little bit more weight, spend a little bit extra time to set up the light, and then deal with 2 lights and 2 modifiers, then the third lighting setup is absolutely your best choice because it just covers all the situations and is also the most stable lighting setup. Okay, this is a 3 lighting setup I want to show you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to keep on top of all the video I post in the future, please subscribe and of course like the video, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.